Welcome to the bye week edition of the Doghouse, your inside look at the Cleveland Browns, brought to you by SportsInteraction.com. I'm Andy McNamara, alongside Browns Insider from WKYC Sports in Cleveland, Matt Florjancic. Remember, for SportsInteraction.com, sports betting site, you can bet on all sorts of sports, football, basketball, hockey, MMA, UFC, whatever, and you can get a match for your first deposit up to $200 by using this simple code. SportsInteraction.com/Browns. SportsInteraction.com/Browns, and they will match up to $200 of your first deposit. Matt, it is the bye week. We had a mini bye week last week. Thanksgiving is upon us in just a couple of days. So I threw down the gauntlet, possibly our toughest Doghouse Twitter question, to @AndyMC81, @Matt Florjancic. Yet, what are you thankful for being a Browns fan? As a Browns fan, what are you thankful for? And Matt, I put it out there and I thought, my gosh, it's going to take me a few minutes to think about what I'm actually thankful for. How are you, buddy?
I'm well, Andy. How are you?
Doing good. Hey, the only real news is, since last we spoke, was Johnny Manziel named for the rest of the season, provided he can stay healthy, as the starter of the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns, including the 2 games he started, will get 8, so a half-season games of seeing Johnny Manziel in a row. That is the huge news. Johnny, where other quarterbacks stay and study studiously and just grind it out at the facility during a bye week or whatever, Johnny's promise was that he wasn't going to embarrass the franchise and that he was going to take a few days off. So the commitment level right away was a little concerning, but hey, if he can stay off of floating swans, I think we have to look at that as a positive.
Yeah, that would be a positive. I haven't seen anything yet. I've been scouring the web, so that's a good sign. Still early. We'll see. Hopefully we don't have to worry about it, but, the commitment level, he's just a different kind of cat. He's not Brian Hoyer, who's going to give up, opportunities with his family to study film and become a better quarterback. He wants to live his life. He keeps saying, I'm, 22 years old. It's my life to live. I'm going to do it how I want. And you can do that, but just don't be expected to be in the NFL very long. Right.
And you know what, though? We have to give credit where it's due. And, I'm a Johnny fan, so I try to keep I try to keep it as neutral and as focused as I can, but it's tough sometimes, Matt. You know that.
It's very difficult for you. I know that much.
But for Johnny, we have seen noticeable improvement from game to game, and that came. It presented itself greatly, I thought, after the Cincinnati game. What'd they say? Hey, you were missing easy reads. You weren't staying in the pocket. What did he do the next time out? Stayed more in the pocket. Now, they still lost, and we got to start converting touchdowns in the red zone and actually putting up points. But the progression from a technical standpoint, I thought, was sound and showed promise. So now it's a totally different mindset for Johnny. Okay, you're the guy. Your goal to get drafted in the first round and, of course, out of college was to be a legit starting quarterback in the NFL, to say, here are the keys to the Ferrari, or for the Browns' case, maybe the Datsun or the Gremlin or something. Anyway, here's the keys to the car. Go do your thing.
I was thinking the Pacer, but yeah, the Gremlin will work.
Right, go do your thing. I just wonder, and I can't wait to see on Monday Night Football what we're going to see out of Johnny Manziel now that he knows and it's been announced that he's the guy.
I don't know what to expect out of Johnny. I don't know how much studying he actually did over the bye week, or if he did try to shut it down. I'm a little concerned in the fact that he has to show some development against a defense that, for all intents and purposes, has been awful this year. The one thing that weighs well in his favor and in favor of the Browns is that Forsett has a broken arm, so he's not going to be playing. And Joe Flacco lost his season due to a torn ACL. So the opportunity is there for the Browns to win the game and give the Ravens a better draft pick in the process. So we will see what happens. I mean, obviously you want to win every game you can. The downside of that is you're going to be helping a team that realistically will not have as bad a down season as they have this year in the future, because that's the Ravens' MO. When they are down, they bounce back quickly.
Well, they have the pieces, right? And Flacco's going to be fine. It's not like he, unless he falls into Bradford territory and you look at him too hard and his leg falls off. But he's not. He doesn't rely so much on his mobility. So as long as he can have a proper recovery, they'll be fine at quarterback. They'll have the pieces. They'll be able to retool and rejig. And wouldn't that be so Browns' luck? Ravens get a higher draft pick from them and are able to just retool instantly. So it's tough this time of year, Matt, because you obviously want. We're programmed as fans, of course, to want your team to win. You want to see progression out of Johnny because, hey, if he could prove that he could be the quarterback of the future, you can still have a high draft pick and use it on something else, hopefully without Ray Farmer making the decisions, by the way. But if you can have that, that's a whole it's just a whole new conversation on the draft process rather than going back to, all right, who's our next quarterback?
Yeah, without question. The draft pick is great on paper, but the Browns have been horrible at finding talent in the draft. I mean, it's a statistical improbability to be that bad that often, but they have been, and I think it's because, and Ray Farmer, who admitted that he was a quote-unquote football nerd and wanted to have many opinions before making decisions, in my opinion, you can't have too many cooks in the kitchen.
Right.
And when you let marketing and the business side start talking draft picks, that's when you get a Johnny Manziel who may take a year or two to actually become a decent NFL quarterback. That's, you want to sell tickets and you want to sell jerseys, and that's fine, but you have to win football games, and that's what certain members of the front office have not yet understood, is that you can make all the money you want, but if you keep giving people a crap sandwich to eat, they're going to find a new deli to eat at.
It's true, especially with the Cavs doing so well and the potential to do better. It's going to be pretty easy for fans to turn their attention, whereas in the past when all the teams were poor, then you just stick with the Browns. So, that's – but Matt, I hope, and you just have to hope, that at the very least you get rid of Ray Farmer. And quite honestly, we're at the point where the coaching, the players have quit on the defense, on defensive coordinator Jim O'Neill. You just got to blow this up. And this would not be at this time. I don't think the fans would view this as an overreaction at all from Jimmy Haslam, even though he said he's going to give the guys time. This has been such an unmitigated disaster and flop from all aspects of the team, from picking players to signing players to coaching players, that the fan base would not be upset with a full blow-up. I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. The only problem I see is that by firing the general manager and the coach and keeping the president, is you're going to get guys that the president can control rather than guys that can do their jobs.
Okay.
And that's where the biggest problem is going to be. Jimmy Haslam has to, if he blows this up, he has to put a direct split between the football side and the business side. Alec, You run the business, you stay out of football. You do not talk to a scout. You do not watch film with the GM. You do not address the coaching staff unless it's a hi, how are you in the hallway. And you, whoever the GM and the coach are, you focus on your jobs. You pick the players. You make it work on the field. You can have interaction and you can talk back and forth about what players you need, because that's what's going to get us successful. But you handle just football ops. You do not do anything but football. And that's ultimately the problem. That's why this thing has gone south, is because you let too many non-football people who don't necessarily know what they're doing when it comes to selecting players have the biggest voice in the organization. And that's where Jimmy has failed miserably as an owner in the NFL, and he's going to continue to fail if he lets the current structure go on and just plug in new players. It's not going to work if you just keep plugging and playing and nothing within the organization changes.
And especially if you keep going the route of first-time head coach who is not your first choice. Like we just Matt, we just cannot go through another process where, all right, we get your 8th choice, 5th choice, whatever. They have to isolate a guy, and I think you're right that it starts at the top of somebody who handles all football. Now, whether that's Peyton Manning, who knows if he's going to keep playing or not, who knows if Cleveland's on his radar or if Tennessee, or maybe he'll take a couple years off. The guy's been playing for a long time, so maybe he wants some time off. But whoever they bring in as the czar, who needs to be not a Joe Banner, not a business guy first, you have Alex Shiner for that, but a football guy, I think you have to start there, because then that's where you'll be able to attract the better candidates of coaching. Because right now, Matt, if Jimmy Haslam's just going back out there to the market and saying, hey, who wants to work for the Browns? Well, you're not going to get the best talent. And we've seen what happens when you get those less than ideal candidates. The Browns, for whatever reason, just do not have luck at finding those diamond in the rough type of coaches or GMs.
No, they don't. And when you look at the opportunities that are going to be out there, just in taking a quick look down the NFL standings, Miami's going to be an opening.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to compete with them. You know, Jacksonville, I think, is safe, but Tennessee's already an opening, so you're going to have to compete with them. San Diego's likely going to be an opening. They're 2-8 right now in the basement of the AFC West division. The Dallas Cowboys, Jason Garrett is probably safe, but you look one step up, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Chip Kelly's on the hot seat, and he did not look very good in that performance yesterday. And you look further, Detroit, definitely heading for a new coach. Chicago, you could make the case that they might try to blow things up, depending upon how they finish out the season. New Orleans, I think they're going to be needing a new coach.
Sure.
Because I think Sean Payton is going to get a lot of phone calls from either other teams or colleges, and they're going to want his services. And then San Francisco as well. I don't think Jim Tomsula is long for the taking. He's waited for a long time to get this opportunity, and congratulations to him for getting it, but I don't think that it's going to last very long. So
no.
That's just 6 or 7 teams right there, and you look at it, and San Francisco isn't very attractive right now because they don't have a franchise quarterback. Their defense is in shambles. And, gee, who does that sound like?
Oh, boy.
The Cleveland Browns. You look at New Orleans. No defense whatsoever to speak of. They still have Drew Brees.
And they fired their defensive coordinator, Matt. They fired their defensive coordinator with a much more established record in Rob Ryan than the Browns do. That just goes to further the dysfunction here, where Rob Ryan can get fired, but Jim O'Neill is safe.
It boggles your mind.
It really does.
Now, they have given up 315 points to 277, but when you look at net points, the Browns have they're 31 points worse than the Saints in point differential this year.
Wow.
So I think that's a pretty telling stat. But the Browns are not going to get the top quarterback or top coaching candidate unless they overpay and they promise absolute power.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do that when they were going after potentially Gruden or Cowher or Wisenhunt or all these other guys.
Or Chip Kelly.
And Joe Banner said, no, I'm the guy that's running the show, and basically every credible candidate told him to go pound salt, and you had to get a coordinator who was, a first-time head coach. They're going to have to do the same thing again, and it's going to be difficult to ever turn this around when the structure just flat out is awful.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't have 3 people who should form a very good hierarchy be on an equal plane.
No.
It doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
No.
And for Jimmy not to see that kind of makes me shake my head, because this guy is supposed to be a great businessman, but he's making really bad decisions running a football team because he doesn't know what to do.
He's probably seeing it now.
Owner.
Yeah.
You can say that he had his time with the Steelers, but bottom line is, the Roonies weren't going to let him make a call. Are you kidding me?
No.
Come on. He was a guy that was brought in to add a new revenue stream. That's it. And when the Roonies got the first crack to get rid of him, gone. Right to Cleveland.
Yeah, and they've been benefiting ever since. You're listening